my interest is to make sure that Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons.
End your pursuit of nuclear weapons. Stop testing and proliferating ballistic missiles.
We are looking to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon.
Israel and Iran have turned the spotlight on Tehran's nuclear capabilities.
In the grand theater of international politics, few tools have been as potent and contentious as economic sanctions. These measures, used by nations to pressurize others into aligning with their strategic interests without resorting to armed conflict, have shaped global dynamics significantly. Iran, a country with a rich history and significant geopolitical clout due to its vast oil reserves and strategic location, has been at the forefront of such measures for decades. This case study delves into the complex tapestry of sanctions imposed on Iran, tracing their historical roots, their intensification over concerns about nuclear proliferation, and their profound impacts on Iran's economy and global relations. This analysis begins in the volatile atmosphere of post-revolution Iran, where the U.S. first imposed sanctions in response to the hostage crisis, and extends through the decades of fluctuating tensions that saw Iran's international isolation wax and wane. The narrative reaches a critical juncture with the revelation of Iran's clandestine nuclear activities in the early 2000s, leading to some of the most stringent sanctions ever imposed by the international community. Through economic data, policy analysis, and geopolitical insights, this case study explores the ripple effects of these sanctions on Iran's economy, its populace, and its very fabric of governance, illustrating the profound power and limits of economic sanctions in the pursuit of international security objectives. Economic sanctions against Iran were first imposed by the United States shortly after the 1979 Iranian Revolution, primarily due to the hostage crisis. However, the scope and intensity of these sanctions expanded significantly as concerns about Iran's nuclear ambitions grew. The discovery in 2002 of Iran's undeclared nuclear sites intensified international scrutiny and led to the UN's involvement. The period from 2006 to 2010 marked a significant escalation in the international community's response to Iran's nuclear ambitions. Concerns about Iran's potential development of nuclear weapons reached a peak, leading to a series of increasingly strict sanctions aimed at curtailing Iran's nuclear capabilities and persuading it to comply with international regulations. The United Nations Security Council, UNSC, first imposed sanctions on Iran in December 2006.
They continue to say to the world, we really don't care what your opinion is. Then the world is going to act in concert.
The Resolution 1737, following reports from the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, that Iran was non-compliant with its obligations under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT. These sanctions targeted the transfer of sensitive nuclear-related technology and materials and froze the assets of key individuals and companies involved in Iran's nuclear and ballistic missile programs. In 2007 and 2008, additional resolutions, 1747 and 1803, were adopted, which expanded the list of sanctioned Iranian entities and imposed travel bans on individuals involved in the nuclear program. These resolutions also called for increased vigilance over transactions with Iranian banks, including the Central Bank of Iran, to prevent the country from financing its nuclear development. The most comprehensive sanctions came in 2010 with UNSC Resolution 1929, which was the harshest set of measures imposed on Iran at that time. It banned Iran from participating in any activities related to ballistic missiles capable of delivering nuclear weapons, tightened the arms embargo, and significantly expanded the freeze on Iranian assets abroad. The resolution also called on states to inspect Iranian cargo to and from Iran if they believed it carried prohibited goods,
تولید سلاح هسته‌ای خلاف شرعه و عرض خدمتتون جمهوری اسلامی سراغ اون نمیره و اون رو عرض حرام میدونه.
The nuclear expert.
The 2006 to 2010 sanctions had a profound impact on Iran's economy, particularly its ability to conduct foreign trade and secure international investments. These financial and military restrictions were designed to curb Iran's ability to fund its nuclear program and pressured it to negotiate its nuclear capabilities seriously. Significantly, the 2010 sanctions marked a turning point in how international sanctions impacted Iran's banking sector. Major global financial institutions began to cut off business with Iranian banks, which severely restricted Iran's ability to conduct international trade and financial transactions. This isolation from the global financial system placed immense pressure on Iran's economy, leading to a depreciation of its currency and an increase in inflation rates. Intensification of sanctions and diplomatic efforts. This period marked a critical phase in international efforts to curtail Iran's nuclear ambitions. In response to ongoing concerns that Iran was advancing its nuclear capabilities, the United States, European Union, and other nations implemented some of the most severe sanctions to date. The European Union banned imports of Iranian oil, a significant blow given that the EU was one of Iran's largest oil markets. Concurrently, the US imposed sanctions targeting the Central Bank of Iran and other key financial institutions, effectively excluding Iran from the global financial system. These measures aimed to cut off funding to Iran's nuclear program by severely restricting its oil revenue and external financial transactions. The sanctions drastically reduced Iran's oil exports from approximately 2.5 million barrels per day in 2011 to around 1 million barrels per day by 2015. Iran's economy entered a period of severe recession, inflation soared, and the value of its currency plummeted. The culmination of intense negotiations led to the JCPOA in 2015, signed by Iran and the P5+1 countries, US, UK, France, Russia, China, and Germany. This agreement marked a significant shift in the approach to dealing with Iran's nuclear program. Under the JCPOA, Iran agreed to eliminate its stockpile of medium-enriched uranium, cut its stockpile of low-enriched uranium by 98%, and reduce by about 2/3 the number of its gas centrifuges for 13 years. In exchange, Iran gained relief from US, EU, and UN Security Council nuclear-related economic sanctions, which helped revive its economy. The International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, was tasked with regular inspections and monitoring to ensure compliance with the terms of the agreement. The US withdrawal from the JCPOA in 2018 under President Trump marked a significant reversal with the reimposition of strict sanctions. These measures were broader, impacting not just nuclear-related sectors, but also targeting metals, mining, and various other industries. The reinstated sanctions aim to exert maximum economic pressure by cutting off Iran's revenues from oil exports, which were crucial for its economy. The sanctions also targeted transactions with Iran's shipping and financial sectors, and any entities that engaged in those sectors. Despite the severe sanctions, Iran's economy showed signs of adaptation and resilience. According to reports in 2024, the IMF noted a slight improvement in Iran's economic conditions with an estimated growth of 3.7% in GDP, attributed to strengthened economic relations with non-Western partners like China and Russia, and a diversified economy less reliant on oil exports. The history of sanctions against Iran demonstrates the complex interplay between international diplomacy and economic policy. While sanctions have undoubtedly pressured Iran's economy and influenced its nuclear policy to some extent, they have also led to significant hardships for the Iranian populace. Moreover, Iran's strategic adaptations highlight the limitations of sanctions as a tool for achieving comprehensive policy objectives. The ongoing developments in Iran's economic indicators suggest a nuanced impact of these international measures, reflecting both vulnerabilities and areas of resilience within Iran's economy.